Hi. Good morning. This is Lakhi Singh, the property fixer. Today I'm going to give you the intro to the show, the drive time. VJ of South should be joining us in a few minutes if I can put my words together. Hope you all had a great weekend. Certainly a lot going on in the world of property and finance. So got a few shout outs already, I think, on a few different platforms. So shout out for Meena Kapoor and John Smith. Good morning, Meena Kapoor, John Smith, Berhan Noor and Adnan Pasha from our property sales side. So hope you all had a great weekend. So what are we going to talk about today? The main topic today is how did Lakhi Singh, the property fixer, get the Rescue My Properties started, and how did it evolve? So I'm going to go on to that story in a few minutes. That's the first part. The second thing I'm going to discuss today is the quote of the day. So this is quite an interesting one. If opportunity does not knock, then why not just make a door? So I don't know what the viewers think about that quote. It'll be interesting to get your views on it. So if opportunity does not knock, why not just make a door? So my take on that one is you can create your own opportunities. So rather than look for external things to come to you, if you're clear about what you want to achieve, you will create your own opportunities. You'll create your own network. You'll find your own product. You'll find a way of actually taking it to market. Or if you're looking for an income or a new job, if you're quite clear about what you want to do, if you do your research and put the word out, I'm pretty confident that whatever you decide to do, you'll be able to achieve. So that's my take on quote for today. So what we're going to cover today, the first thing is going to be 5 to 10 key points as to how Rescue My Properties was started. And first of all, what is Rescue My Properties? So for those of you who don't know, Rescue My Properties is a website that I set up with another senior partner. And what we do is we help people with property problems. Now, Rescue My Properties has got 5 or 6 different solutions around solving property problems. And what's happened is we've managed to come up with a lot more new solutions in solving the problem. So that particular, hold on one second, we've managed to come up with a lot more solutions that can be added on to Rescue My Properties from other sister companies. And what we can do is we can easily now help others to also create an income opportunity from Rescue My Properties, which is called the Rescue Associate Program. So it's actually spelled rescue, then associate. So we call it the RAC program. We've taken the rescue and the associate with the A and the C from the associate as the RAC abbreviation. So we call the RAC program. It's meant to be like a sort of acronym of the roadside assistance, but for property terms. So that's quite an exciting proposition for a lot of you out there who want to help people. So what is the ethos of Rescue My Properties? The ethos of Rescue My Properties is to help people with maybe about 10 different things. So a lot of clients come to Rescue My Properties if they've got issues around repossession with LPA receivers. This is to do with the LPA Receiver Act 1925. So that's number one. So if you've got a Buytolet portfolio and you've got issues with it in terms of trying to get finance, or you're in arrears and you find that the bank is now threatening to appoint receivers or has appointed receivers, or is about to sell your properties, and you're worried about them underselling them. So that's actually quite a key area for Rescue My Properties. Or if your property's all been sold and there's a shortfall and the bank is now chasing you for the shortfall. So Rescue My Properties deals with repossession matters for property portfolios, and for it's mostly commercial properties that we assist in. That's why it's called Rescue My Properties with the plural. The second thing that Rescue My Properties does is it specializes in writing off negative equity debt. So if you've got 10 to 20 properties which are in negative equity, and you don't know how to get out the problem, or you've got an end of term coming up where you've got 5 properties who've come to an end of term and the others are okay. Question is, and the bank is not allowing you to refinance, and you can't find any refinance solutions out there because the properties are too highly geared. How do you get out of that problem? So what Rescue My Properties does is they offer an appraisal of your properties. So we look at the pricing, look at all the contracts with the banks, find out really what the exact situation is, and then we'll work out whether they can fall into a restructure, which is called the Detox Property Portfolio Program, where we detox your properties using very health-based terms here, detox. So if you are concerned about your property portfolio, thinking, well, is it going to survive a potential fall in market prices, whatever's happening with COVID-19, tax laws that have come out, which are quite tight now in terms of income that you're making, then talk to us, because we can look at your property portfolio and look at another way in. So that's just the second part of what we do in Rescue My Properties. Thirdly, we have a lot of clients that come to us and say, look, the bank, I've got my house that's actually in trouble now. I need finance to actually protect my house. What can I do? So we have access to potential lenders that will help raise finance against your business or some of your businesses, against your house, to actually solve any debt issues you've got, which is quite complicated, but we've got all the solutions in-house to solve that problem. That's number 3. We can help you save your house. Number 4, we also have access to a lending arm. So we've got private lenders, portfolio lenders, international banks. We've got the whole of market for lending, for Buytolet and for residential lending. So we can certainly assist in terms of finding you the best lenders in the market to solve any Buytolet problem that you've got. So if you talk to us and say, look, I've got finance problem, we can raise first charge bridging, a second charge bridging. So what's a unique selling point in terms of what Rescue My Properties can do with the finance side is that we work with a lot of private lenders. So a lot of the time we could do a desktop valuation, so you don't have to necessarily pay for a valuation. We can do it as a desktop. We also have access to lenders who are private lenders, so they might be a tiny more expensive, but they're pretty quick because you need to solve a problem. So we can really help solve that problem that you've got at Rescue My Properties. What else is it that we can do at Rescue My Properties that solves your problem? So number 5 is probably one of the most exciting areas of the company, is that we also have a sales division called LPA Properties that helps us to sell properties across the whole country. But it's not just focused on solving the problem of sale. It also helps with solving the problem of a purchase as well. So if you're looking to purchase property then we can put you into our buyer database, which is extensive. And we have a structure in place for that. If you're looking to sell a property, then we have access to our buyers. We can actually put your property out, list it, and we can offer a 0% commission on sale, which is very exciting. But if you wanted to sell it very quickly, then we do have a platinum service, so you can pay us 1% if you're not in a rush to sell your properties. So that's also a really exciting service, and that is UK wide. I also, the very top end of the market, I also deal with a lot of high net buyers, hedge funds, family offices. So we have access to numerous buying sources. If you're looking to sell a, let's say, a asset above 50 million, or if you're looking to sell a portfolio of any size, we will have buyers for that internationally. So basically, the last service is not really a rescue my property service, but it's more if you're interested in the luxury or top end market for buying and selling. But in summary, rescue my properties is more of as a labor of love, you could call it, because we've been understanding every single angle of any property problem that exists in the market, and have developed an extensive amount of in-house knowledge and experience and in terms of tackling property problems in the United Kingdom. So we're set to be the leaders in the distressed market for landlords wanting help in their property problems. Wow, we've got perfect timing. VJ Sal
Good
on.
morning, Lakhi Singh. How are you doing? Sorry about that delay.
To be
helicopter
cleaning his nose
wing.
with a hanky.
No, sorry about that.
I think we just caught him just there.
I'll do that again.
In the midstream.
Making sure the makeup isn't coming off. My nose drops off. How are you doing, sir?
I'm very well. Good morning, VJ Sal. How are you doing? I've just done a quick intro.
Sorry about the delay this morning. Helicopter wing fell off. Had to wait for it to get glued back on. Had to fly out, come back in. Okay, Lakhi Singh. Wikipedia live story, Lakhi Singh. The property fixer, the ixer, the mixer, the hoover, the mover, the shaker, the maker, the raker, and the moon raker, the moon walker, the man of the square mile, the Wikipedia life story of Lakhi Singh. Today is an interesting topic, Lakhi Singh, in the Wikipedia life story. We're going to talk about how Rescue My Properties became an entity, how this this exceptional, detailed and pragmatic business took off, why it took off, what it serves, and who it serves, and who is it there built around. And as well as the weekly saying we've got, if opportunity doesn't knock, build a door. That sounds very positive. That sounds very Lakhi Singh, positive, fixer type of mentality. So Wikipedia life story, you're giving a summary of all the wonderful things you do. I want to focus on how Rescue My Properties became an entity. What was it that ran through that brain of yours, that deep, dark chasm of mucus, blood cells, meat, protein, all of it put together under that skull? What was it thinking about? Why Rescue My Properties? Surely Rescue My Properties is a bit sort of candid, isn't it, out there, saying it as it is on the tin. Is that really what people want in the property world? Do they want to know that they're being rescued from their properties, or rescued from the banks for their properties? Where did it start from, Lakhi Singh? Tell us. Where was this story?
The way it started was that the last recession, I had problems of my own, and the consultancy that came to assist me with those particular problems at the time seemed to have extensive knowledge around assets and business. And after about 6 months, a year of tidying up pretty much all my issues of my own portfolio at the time, we found that we were getting lots of calls from people with requirement for assistance with their property portfolios, because having a big portfolio at the time was quite a common thing. Nearly every person, you name it, had a portfolio, whether it be a cat, a rabbit, or a human. So by default, because I was being helped with my own portfolio, we realized that a lot of people needed assistance. So I think it was just organic growth in terms of moving from being helped to being a helper.
So is it help or is it fix? That's a different word, isn't it? Help. Were you helped, or were you being fixed, or were you being consulted? What was it? And before you answer that question, we have D31 apparently. So this is probably it's a latest prototype from the D21. We have a D31 or 31, who has also given us a hi. She's watching us on YouTube, I think. So big shout out to you, D, as well. We have another D who's joined us, but we've got this attraction for all the Ds. Yes, Lakhi. So tell me, were you helped, or were you fixed, or were you consulted?
Yeah, it was a combination of all those three things. I mean, consultation is the beginning part, and then I knew that I could be helped. So they were obviously helping, and then to fix the problem, they had to literally implement. So you could sort of say the first part was I needed help. The second part was getting a consultation done, and the third part was implementing and fixing whatever they could.
I like that. So really, the fixing is the end bit. Is that what you say? The last bit, the bit that comes after the help, the consultation. That's when the fix starts. When you actually recognize the problem, you accept there's a problem, and then you work together to fix the problem. Is that correct if I say it in that way?
I'd say that's pretty accurate, yeah.
We've got a Tracy who's going to join us in a bit. Apparently, got Tracy who sent out a link. She said she wants to jump in. We will have Tracy in between both of us. Excelente. Tracy Patrick, I think, is her name. We've also got somebody from Switzerland who wants to join us in a bit. I'm not sure if she's coming in today or tomorrow, but there's someone from Switzerland who possibly wants to join in with the live session. So, Lakhi, okay, you say it started from your own issues. So, the name Rescue My Properties, how did that come about? Why rescue my property? Why not save my properties? Or why not help me in my property? Why not consult me in my property? Why rescue my properties? Who were you talking to? Who were you appealing to? And what did you think people would think of the rescue my property word?
I think for the time that we're working in the property industry, I think it was quite a direct term. So not many people liked it or wanted to really hear it, because they just wanted to hear the nicey thing, like I'm an estate agent, and then, can you help? Can you help me sell my property? Or can you help me finance my property? Or are you solicitors? Then you help me fight my case. I think so. What Rescue My Properties is a bit more generic, but it brought the problem into one point. So it's something that tackles all 5 key things which I mentioned earlier, which is the finance, the litigation, the expertise in the sales, and the expertise also in understanding the nature of the issue and actually being able to write off negative equity debt. So combination of about 4 or 5 key things, which could all be brought under one roof, to be able to assist anybody with any sort of problem with the.
You said somewhere, somebody you recently were talking to in London actually used the very same phrase, rescue them from rescue their properties, in a meeting you had in London. Is that correct? And you said
That's
that was
right.
a bit of a deja vu moment, or a bit of a flash. Talking of flashes, we've got someone flashing backstage waiting. Tracy Patrick. As again, we will do a bit of the Luther Van Ross and Maria Carey waiting backstage, waiting for us in the wings. We have Tracy Patrick, who's actually just joined us today in the group, and has actually decided to come on. A very confident young lady, I assume. Can we have her? Can we have her? Tracy, how are you doing?
I don't think so. Just good, thank you. Yes, how are you?
I'm great. I'm great. Lovely to know that you have because a lot of people are a bit afraid of coming on and being on a live stream, because it's a bit like being on television, being interviewed. So they're a bit, they get a bit frightened or somewhat nervous. But it's lovely to know that you've just joined us and you've just
Probably
jumped
ignorant.
straight. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can. Yes, I said it's probably ignorance. That's why. It's not bravery.
The bliss. Ignorance is a bliss. Yes. It's excellent sometimes to be ignorant. And I think it's lovely that you have that ability to be ignorant. Sometimes I think too much knowledge is not good for you. Is that right, Lakhi Singh? Would you say too much knowledge sometimes is dangerous?
I think so.
Yes.
Yeah, I think too much knowledge
think it
sometimes you can just end up going around in circles.
Excelente. Okay, Tracy, tell us about yourself.
It can make you
there's some
more fearful
Tracy,
than
I think
you need to be.
That's right. Tracy, you've got a lapse in your internet. Do you want us to add you again?
Oh dear.
Can you hear us
Right.
properly?
How do I correct that then?
No. Can you hear me now then?
Yes, I can again now. Yes.
Excellent. Right. Okay. Tell us a bit about your lovely life story. What has gotten you to where you are? What's your background? What's your interest? Are you a business lady, or are you a 9-to-5er? Are you locked down in covert and you're just sort of looking to pass a bit of time talking to us crazy old folk? What is it? Can you hear us?
No, not at all. Well, I've always probably again with hello.
Lakhi Singh? Yeah, you've got some problem with your internet, Tracy. You got a problem with your internet?
So it seems quite strong, and don't normally, but
okay.
Maybe
continue.
I'll just rejoin, shall I? I think that might be the best.
Yeah, do that again, please.
Okay, bye bye.
Or maybe sit in a better area of the house might make it easier. And maybe that you got wherever you are now may not be good connection.
You know she's in a house. She may be at a friend's house, Lakhi Singh. She may be in a hotel. She's out having an extended holiday. Right, Lakhi Singh. So tell us now, so what did you find then? What was happening? Because I hint there that people didn't like the name Rescue My Properties. They didn't want to hear that. Is that probably because you had a name that was as it is on the tin type of thing, and people in property normally don't want to hear the bad news. They want to pretend like things are all still hunky-dory. Is that common with people in property?
Yeah, I think a lot of property people, they just want to hear the good news. They don't really want to hear any bad news. I even had a call from somebody quite senior about 3 or 4 weeks. I think it was about 2 months ago. Who's quite big in the property scene. And the first thing he said to me, we hadn't spoken for about a couple of years, and he said, "Oh yeah, how are you doing?" I said, "Everything good, everything good." He goes, "By the way, I haven't got any problems." I said, "But so?" He goes, "Oh yeah." I said, "Oh right, okay, I understand. You haven't got any problems, meaning with your property portfolio." He goes, "Yeah, I haven't got any issues." I said, "Fine, okay." So that's how the conversation starts, because after a while, people start, looking at you as the, solving the problem. So, if I'm at Moderna or AstraZeneca or Pfizer, I've got the vaccine, people think, "Oh no, I haven't got the virus," it's that sort of situation.
Right, okay, we've got the lovely Tracy waiting backstage again. Luther Van Roth, second time. We've got the lovely Maria Carey in the shape of Tracy Patrick back again. Can you sing, Tracy?
Definitely
Maria?
not. My partner will testify to that.
Right, okay, so you can't sing. Can you tell us about your lovely story, your life story? Who are you? Where have you come to? What do you do? Are you a business tycoon? Are you a 9-to-5er? Are you a housewife? Or are you just crazy, logging in, coming in with that ignorant smile of yours?
Definitely crazy. Well, I'm currently a property investor. I've done various different things over my life so far. Most of it a little bit off the wall, but always with a secure background of probably a 9-to-5, although don't have that anymore.
Okay.
Yes, I very much enjoy property. Being probably a little bit too hands-on to make it very efficient. But I enjoy the process of looking, finding, buying, sourcing, sorting out trades. I recently met my new partner, I say recently, 18 months ago, and he's also very into property, and it's quite refreshing to be with somebody that actually has common interest.
Okay,
so
that's quite interesting, Tracy. Tracy, that's quite interesting, because we had another one of our avid listeners who said the same thing, that she found commonality through her business interest with her present husband, and that's what makes the relationship stronger. That you're, especially in property, I think this happens. It doesn't happen for other professions, although I'd say, you normally get the commonality of a doctor marrying a doctor, or but you don't get it everywhere. I think it's quite unique to property, because I think property has its own quirks. Lakhi, what do you say? Because you've had trauma, a lot of trauma, and being a different personality to your that time your better half, and you had to there was probably a bit of a an opposite attract type of situation, or was it? Do you find that relationships normally need some commonality in their working style as well to make it better, or do you feel that's just pure luck?
I think the more things you've got in common, the easier it is, because then there's less conflict, because there's a better understanding. Because I think sometimes this one person's a business person, I think, and the other person is a 9-to-5 person. There's a very different understanding of risk. It's not just about property. I think it's just business in general. So I think if both of you come from background where you're making money or doing business in property, then you've got a common thread. It's easier to probably have a common understanding of how to manage risk. So I think it's probably a better thing that you understood each other at a sort of financial level, then it makes it easier to understand each other at a personal level. That's my opinion.
Excellent. Tracy, a thumbs up for both of you and your partner then. Risk, understanding risk and the commonality of the interest is obviously a gelling force. So tell me, so you say you are a bit hands-on, and that's probably, you feel that's a handicap. But is it really a handicap? Or don't you need to be hands-on in any business? Even if you had a pizza parlor, you would have to be pizza on, wouldn't you? You'd have to have your hands all over the pizzas. You'd have to know what the process is to be able to make sure your customer experience was, maximized or optimized. So when you say you're too hands-on, what do you mean? Do you go around touching your property, feeling it all?
Probably, literally, yeah. Well, I just think that very often we're told or advised that we should outsource lots of tasks and admin, and we don't seem to be at that stage to be able to let go, whether that's a control thing, whether that's not having people around that you can trust, or you feel that you can trust, not in the deceptive way, but in the case of maybe not doing everything that should be done. Yes, I think that I think we set our own limitations in that, because there's only so much you can fit in 24 hours. But at the moment, that's the way we are, and that's if anything that's holding us back. But at the moment, in current climate, I think it's probably a wise thing to do.
Okay, so are you saying
I have a tip for you, Tracy, by the way.
Just 1 minute, Lakhi. Let me ask the questions.
Yeah.
Are you saying, Tracy, that you walk around with a spanner and a screwdriver and you go
Not
around
exactly.
So what is it then? When you say hands-on,
are
you going around feeling up the door or something? What do you do?
Well, I mean, it literally, apart from actually most of the trades, even then we do get involved if necessary. We do everything right from sourcing, finance. We obviously don't do, well, not obviously, because you can do conveyancing yourself, but we do have solicitors that do the conveyancing for us. But we seem very involved day to day with sorting out services, and I think a lot of people, it seems, in the property world that I know of now have personal VAs or someone that they can offload mundane or everyday tasks to, and we haven't got to that stage yet.
Okay, this is where Lakhi always puts out this message, and I think it's he'll second that and give you a little input. It's about building up a power team. And I know it sounds big and grand, but by a power team, what it means is at least a few trusted people in certain key things to do with properties that you can rely upon. Whether you pay them over the odds is a separate matter, but the fact that you can rely upon them to do the job in the best possible way that you would want of it. So Lakhi, what's your advice? The fact that Tracy feels that she can't expand, she's not being able to grow the business because of her hands-on style. Is that wrong? Isn't it right?
I think when you're starting off, I think you've got to be very much in control of your pennies. That makes the pounds. So you can't really afford to be trusting people and expecting them to do the job perfectly to what you want. And because traditionally with tradesmen, women, there's a lot of unreliability. No matter really how good they say they are, they'll always try to cut a corner. So I think initially you've got to be on your guard. But after a while, once you've got an understanding that somebody is reliable, they've got a good reference, and they've done 2 or 3 jobs, and they're on the money, so to speak. They're very honest in their dealings. Then I think you've got to start getting them to do their work, and maybe rather than check every piece of work, you can start doing random checks. The other thing a lot of landlords are doing is also they've got cameras on their properties now in communal areas or outside areas. So when they can see really when people coming and going, so you can actually manage your property remotely. So if you've got cameras everywhere, so if a tradesman has said, I'm going to turn up at 9 o'clock to actually do something in your property, and it's an outside job, you know, you can actually get them to video film their finished job, or you can actually do it that way around. And one of the other things you can do is find a local person who's in a similar sector to you, and just, you know, if your properties are quite remote, you're in London and they're in Huddersfield or something, it's a bit difficult to manage. So having somebody that you may even pay actually to oversee it, that's usually comes in form of an agent. So there are agents that will take on that role. But the good thing is you can actually just test them out with a few times, and if they don't really know you've got cameras there or not, you know, you can also check out really their honesty as well in terms of what they say and do. Yeah.
Good idea.
But not that you're trying to catch them out, but it's more to sort of see really doing the jobs to your standards, really. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Camera, Lakhi says, probably a bit like that movie. Forgot the name of it. It's got the what's her name? You know, the lady for the with the and the who does the crosses her legs. Forgot her. She's in there, and it's got cameras across the whole of the building. Forgot the name of the movie. So he's watching.
I know who you mean.
Like,
he was with Michael Douglas in that film.
That's right, with the and she goes, does that, yeah? So the point is, like he suggests, putting the cameras across the front door, which is probably all right, because it's not sort of invading the privacy of your tenants. And if you wanted to go one step forward, put cameras across everywhere, be a bit of a voyeur and watch people and check them out using your boilers and making sure they turn off the gas appliances, things like that. I don't think it would be legal, obviously, but the concept is correct. You could check out the people you work with by just having a simple camera fixed outside to see their diligence. And I think Lakhi goes across an important thing, that in the lockdown, lots of things have popped up by necessity, like having a video sort of a catalogue of repairs or damages that may be required, so that the tradesman can actually give you a quote before he goes to site. So it's not mandatory that he gets to see the place and go out and then charges you, you know, £100 or £50 for the visit, but he can actually over video see the damage or the repair and give his best assessment of a quotation, which knocks out that that problem you have of, you know, tradesmen going down and saying, look, we'll only go down if you pay us, you know, 50 quid for the visit and blah blah blah. And then you're thinking, well, if it's only a 10%, only a £10 repair, why do I want to pay £50 for it? Yeah. So there are solutions out there. So when you so the question I think Lakhi brought out was where your properties are. I mean, whereabouts are you, Tracy? Not that we want to stalk you, but where are you in the United Kingdom, and where are your properties?
Right. Well, I'm based in Bristol. We've got properties
in southwest there, yes.
That's right. Yeah, we've got projects at the moment on the go in Swansea, and we'll finished one locally, and we've got one in Paignton. So the thing about having a power team with trades is we do have someone that we pay to stay down in Paignton at the moment, and likewise we did in Swansea when it was you know, full steam ahead. But it is difficult when you are not based in one particular location to have trades that you get to know, which are fine. You sort them out in a certain area, but obviously they're not going to be that happy about traveling a couple of hours to do work for you somewhere else. So it's sort of every time you find a project, you're more or less starting from scratch to find reliable local trades.
Local tradesmen, right? Okay, there is a website. I think one of the people we had on last week or the week previous to that. She's an administrator in a. Well, this is the reason we've got the alternative business and property solutions community. But we're just getting everyone to come together and share knowledge, so that one person will have a solution that the other person hasn't thought of. And she is an administrator in a web-based company that provides tradesmen across the UK. So it's called Trusted Trader or something. So you may be using. And has that proven to be of any service?
Yes, it is. I have to say that the people that we've used from there have tended to be very reliable and have done a decent job. So yes, yeah.
You're in Bristol.
There is a bit of a yin and a yang with traders, which is that even though you might find somebody in trustedtrader.com which is reliable, but I think they tend to be a bit more expensive because they've got a better reputation. Yeah. So if you're trying to start off, it's not always the right thing to do, because you might be paying 40-50% over the odds as well in terms of what a market price for something may be.
Well, these are business decisions, I think, Lakhi, you're right. I think it is a point to be considered that you may have to regard using traders only when there's a certain expense, or refurbs, or maybe other things which are slightly more in cost. That's probably where you would want to use them to make sure the job's being done properly. So you're in Bristol, and so you don't own a portfolio by the sounds of it. You do projects. What do you do with them? Do you sell them on then? Are you taking dilapidated or refurb projects, or what are you doing?
I've got a couple of a few rentals which I'm actually in the process of. I've been selling them recently to concentrate and focus on refurbs and flipping, just to build up sort of like some capital, to have to do away with the relying on lenders and the criteria that they put in place, really, to make it a bit more flexible, to be able to.
Very clever. Well, I've come across this terminology a few times, flipping. I keep getting a picture of someone actually doing somersaults. Is that correct, Lakhi? What is the flip? Is it like someone trying to do a bit of gymnastics? What is the flip? I mean, a lot of people out there probably don't know what a flip is. It could be a part of the swear, flipping hell, or flipping heck. Or is it something else, Lakhi? What does it mean, flipping? And what's the
flip means that you're buying a property, you buy a property, or you've got a property, and then you're going to sell it on. It's actually, technically, you could actually put into accountancy terms. There's different taxation laws around buying property and selling it, and considered to be a trader. So there's different types of taxation that gets impacted. So whereas if you're buying and holding property, then tax is looked at differently. So flipping property is a simple act of buying an asset and then selling it and making your margin. That's the, let's just say, that's the mode of making profit.
Excellent.
So I think what Tracy's doing, she's not necessarily flipping property. I think at the moment what she's doing is this is sort of from an accountancy point of view, she's actually bought property which is held for 5 or 10 years plus, and now she's looking to crystallize her gains and get the capital out, and she's looking to invest into other projects which might be high yielding. She may be looking to hold. I think that's maybe accurate. Is that right, Tracy?
Very, very technical, very technically put, sir. Before we flip over to Tracy, I will give a shout out to Mandy, who's giving us a big hi, and Sonia. Thank you so much this morning for everybody waking up on a Monday morning. I've not asked you then, Tracy, before I ask you the technical explanation, whether Lakhi's got it right or not. How's the weather out there in Bristol?
A bit gloomy. It's a bit gloomy. A little bit of a frost this morning and a bit gloomy now.
You seem to have a Bristol accent. You're not from, are you originally from Bristol, or are you from elsewhere?
I grew in southwest London.
Ah, you see, I caught you. So you're not originally from Bristol. You're out from London. Is that right?
No.
You're from East
Yeah, near Kingston on Thames, that area, near
on Thames.
Palace.
Where on Thames? Kingston.
Kingston.
Yeah. Ah, Kingston. You mean Kingston upon Thames?
Around that area, yeah.
Very nice. Okay. And how many years have you been out of London? How long have you been outside of London?
33.
Ah, 33 only, say. Only 33.
Yeah, so I've been out of London longer than I was in London.
Okay. Now. Excellent. Right. Okay. So we come back to Lakhi Singh. No, we come back to Tracy. Tracy, what I want to know is, what is the technical structure you're adopting in your flipping? Are you taking properties and flipping them according to the accountancy terminology that Lakhi is using? Or is it literally a short-term hold and sell on? And are you just taking the contracts and selling them on, right? Are you actually acquiring, refurbing, and then selling on? And which way around is it?
Right. Well, currently we're doing, we're taking them on, adding some sort of value, whether that can be literally refurbs or whether to add maybe a loft conversion or something, and then selling it. But always brought in mind that if necessary, the rental demand in the area is always good, and that the yields would be good if we needed that as a backup plan. So excellent. Just to be
very clever, very clever. So you're about, say, 3 or 4 different dimensions. You look at a property. So the first thing you do is you see it from, does it need, or can it be, can it have a value add to it? Is that correct?
That's right, yes.
Then you make sure, if we're going to spend money on it, in case we need to hold on to it, will it get us a good yield? Is that correct?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And obviously the objective is to sell on with an uplift. So if you bought it for, say, 200,000, you should sell it for around 300. What's the benchmark you keep on the profits then? What type of numbers do you like to look at? What turns you on in terms of acquiring?
Well, it very much depends on the value initially. We don't tend to work on a percentage, although that comes into it when you were actually having to borrow, because obviously there's more borrowing, more expense to go into it. But normally we'd be looking at adding at least £70,000 to a property, and hoping to achieve that within sort of like 3 months, 3 to 4 months.
So in honesty, what you're doing is you are actually flipping on in terms of, you're probably using the contract, because if you've acquired it and you're trying to sell on within 3 months of completing it, it's normally an issue with the land registry and HMRC. So I assume you're not actually acquiring in terms of purchasing it. You're holding it on a reassignable clause of some kind that allows you to.
We haven't actually done that yet. We have approached a few vendors with that in mind, but it seems to be generally not very well known, and so people are quite wary. It will appear. So no. Normally, we actually do purchase. We totally go through the conveyancing system and actually purchase them. But even if we spent sort of like 3 to 4 months producing the uplift, and actually by the time that the sale is achieved, we're normally past the 6 months magic figure.
Right, that's good. And then I think you've got a clever formula there. So what you're doing is, if you look at it from a numbers game, you've kept it very, very clever in terms of you're thinking of at least about over £250,000 of gross profits per annum. Only then does it make sense. Anything less than that's not worth it. Is that what you're saying?
Well, I mean, it depends how many projects you can do. We are quite selective, which is one of the things that that we do very well, is actually dismiss a lot of properties and a lot of projects, because we want to build in a margin for the market taking a downturn, problems that could be held up along the way. So we do protect ourselves and hopefully our investors, so that the projects that we do take on are fairly as secure as you can probably get, really.
Excellent. So you have a investment bank as well. So you've got a bank of people who are also putting money in with these projects for you. Is that correct?
We're just switching. Well, we're just trying to increase that and switching over to that way of raising finance, in the hope that it will be a little bit faster, a faster process when you go, because often that these the projects that we do choose eventually are ones that require quite a quick response, because if you're getting them at a reduced amount, people normally want a quick sale. So anything that goes through borrowings, banks, or even bridging loans can take quite a time. So investors tend to make a decision, a little bit quicker. And also it just means that it's nice to think that you can offer somebody a decent return on an investment. And
so what type of returns do you offer, Tracy? We've got lots of people listening. You may get some other people who want to put some money down on the table with you. What type of return do you offer for investment?
It depends very much on the project, really. Sometimes it would be just a straightforward loan, which is probably the easiest for us to manage, and thereby we agree a return on the money that's invested over 6 months to a year, depending on everyone's situation, really. And for that, we would be hoping, if we had the margins in the project, to be offering between 5 and 8%.
That's not bad. 5 and 8% is excellent. It's very good returns. That's better than having a rental property.
Yes, that's right. It just very much depends on the project. Well, exactly. Yes, exactly. But it works for us as well. We are probably, it's probably not that dissimilar to borrowing, the cost of borrowing through a bank, apart from the fact that you don't tend to have admin fees and setup fees initially. But it just means that hopefully we can move a little bit faster. And it's just nice, I know it sounds awful, but to cut out perhaps that middleman, so that you're actually paying the returns directly to the person with the funds.
Well, that's a clever model. That's a clever model. Lakhi Singh, what do you say to that model? And have you used this model when creating your own business empire? I mean, you're obviously one of the main shakers and movers of the square mile. You obviously deal with 100 millions, but the concept's the same, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it's quite a common process. Obviously, if you can get a private lender to lend the money to you without any setup costs. So I think it's a good thing. I think there's a bit of a downside to that, because if a project doesn't go in on time, or it doesn't work out, or the profit isn't there, then you're left sometimes with private investors, and private investors sometimes, because they're quite inexperienced at some of the time in terms of their lending, it could be more time and trouble than it's worth. So there's a bit of a yin and a yang. You just got to be careful who you are getting involved in your business, because if you've got even small bits of money, £20,000 or £30,000, you might find that's sometimes more hassle with the private individual, because they're not looking at things in a standard way, so you don't know what you're playing with. So if you didn't give them the money back on time because everything and they needed the money, then I think that it's all the devil's in the detail. So what's the default rate if you can't return the money because builder fell ill, COVID-19 happened, nobody was on site? A lot of the things come out in the wash in terms of well, you don't really want them to come out in the wash. You actually want them to preempt them. So things like if there's a delay, what's the default rate? And if you're borrowing money from a private individual, is it secured against the asset with some sort of documentation as a charge document against the asset? And also, where do they rank in terms of their money? Is it a first charge? Is it a second charge? Is it a third charge? So, and I think the issue you get with private investors is that if they're inexperienced in lending, something goes wrong, some of them go a bit crazy and they may spread it all over the internet or something and actually give you a bit of a bad name as well. So you just have to be very careful really who you're dealing with and really work out, what what the pros and cons are. In my view, you may be able to get the same sort of lending even on a bridge with private lenders, which are still investors of a type, but they're quite experienced in their documentation. So it might be easier to deal with them because, but it's very difficult to get a private lender that's consistent because sometimes they'll also try to be clever and trying to change the goalposts as well with you. So I've seen it all really in my time, but I'd be very careful when it comes to private investors. So if there's a way of raising money yourself and do it through an institution, I suppose if you can do it cheaply enough at the same sort of cost, then happy to try and help you, give you those sort of contacts if that helps you.
Excellently. Right, Tracy, last minute. What do you have to say to the listeners, and just in general terms, what do you say the market seems to say to you at this present time? Because you're out in Bristol, and I assume the market in Bristol is slightly different to the market in London. What do you think is happening in the last, give us a 30-second summary and give us an understanding of where do you think the market's going in and what type of business you are happy to take on, in case we've got somebody who wants to give you a shout out.
Firstly, I want to say thank you very much. I didn't know what I was signing into, so thank you guys. It's been brilliant. The market in Bristol has been very, very strong, ridiculously so in lots of ways, to be honest. I think that there will be a little bit of a drop next year, but I don't think it's going to be massive. We're looking towards maybe more commercial conversions in the future, because I think there's going to be a lot of commercial property, unfortunately, that is going to be available. And I think that's about it. Thank you very much, guys.
Excellent.
And it's been really interesting. Thanks.
Excellent. That's a big nugget, I think. I think that really confirms a lot of the conversations we've been having in the past few months, where people are talking about commercial assets closing down, retailers on the high street no longer trading, going into voluntary arrangements to waive off their council liabilities. And the fact that there may be a change on the high street, you're quite right. It may be bigger money, but I think you're right that there's going to be an abundance of commercial assets looking to be converted. And there is something that's on the horizon called service apartments. And I think you may find that's an excellent market to get into if you want to hold assets and have your yield increased. Service apartments is definitely something that is being talked about, especially with the laws on the ASTs changing as well, the legal contracts between the tenants and the landlords. I think it's very refreshing, Tracy. Thank you so much. You've jumped in, but you were definitely a breath of fresh air for us. Lakhi Singh, say you
take care.
Take care, Tracy.
Have a good day. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Tracy, thank you for coming on, Tracy.
Tracy is gone. Yes, Lakhi. What do you say? Sorry, I couldn't recognize your difference. Tracy, Lakhi, Tracy. Lakhi Singh, 30 seconds. What do you say?
About what in particular?
Right. About if your opportunity does not find you, build your own door.
Yeah, I think you've got to really be out there trying to learn your game. You've got to understand really what you're doing. So if you haven't got opportunities in front of you, you've got to create them. So doing your research, keeping eye out, networking, keeping your energy positive, looking after your health. You know, it's all critical to creating a solution to potential business or new opportunities or your existing business. So that's right. You got to make that door.
Okay, sir. Thank you so much for your time. Excellent advice and input. We will continue next week with the Wikipedia life story, the way Rescue My Properties took off, what it actually has, what it gives, how it's grown, what are the other features of this excellent portal website that gives a lot of assistance to people wanting to jump into property, and if not, that becomes self-employed. We'll cover that next week. Tomorrow we'll see you again, 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. Lakhi Singh, drive time sessions. Apologies for being late. Sorry, the helicopter wing obviously fell off and I had to have it glued back on, but it finally got glued on. But I took the road instead, got to the studio in time. So Lakhi Singh, thank you so much, sir. Speak to you tomorrow. We should have a guest on, I think, tomorrow as well. And we will see you then. Lakhi Singh, the property fixer, the mixer.